Yeah, what will happen to Rocky? Hello there, my lovelies. Welcome to my very first shared series, where we together will find out what will happen to Rocky. You can call me Jay, and this is the gorgeous Rocky Simsicle. Rocky will be the foundation for everything going forward. And to kick this off, we are starting with a Black Widow series. Like, why not? I know that there is a Black Widow challenge out there and that there are rules and stuff, but we are doing our own thing with this. Maybe now you're wondering, wasn't this Rocky? Yeah, that's also Rocky. And in a way, or every way, depending on how you look at it, this is also Rocky. Before we figure out what happens between this and this, we have to take a few steps back and learn about what happened to Roxane. Roxane grew up in a big vineyard in Tortosa. She lived with her parents Antonio and Camille, her older brother Matteo and younger brother Gabriel, and Antonio's parents Hugo and Isabella. Hugo and Isabella raised Antonio and his 3 brothers very strict. Antonio was the oldest of the brothers and was raised to take over the family business and the estate. When Antonio met Camille, he fell head over heels in love with her. She was the most beautiful, kind, amazing sim that he had ever met, and he swore to do everything and anything to make her happy for the rest of his life. Camille, her big brother Francois, and little sister Angelique was raised with nothing but love and understanding by their parents Benoit and Aurelia in a house in Willow Creek. Antonio never really cared about children, but Camille loved children, and of course Antonio wanted Camille to have everything she wanted. Antonio really didn't like sharing his time with Camille with the children. One day, when Camille was on her way home from a volunteer job in Solani, her plane got caught in a storm and crashed. Everybody was devastated over the loss. Antonio worked all the time and started drinking way too much. Antonio lashed out at everybody except for the golden boy Matteo. On a weekend a few weeks later, Antonio and his parents were away on a business trip, and Gabriele was at a friend's house. Matteo decided to have a house party with some of his university friends. Roxane, of course, was not invited, but she decided to show up anyways. There was, of course, no lack in alcohol at the party, and Roxane drank way too much and became way too drunk. One of Matteo's university friends named Sawyer started flirting with Roxane, and they ended up woohooing. A few weeks go by where Roxane is not feeling well at all. She later finds out that she is pregnant. Roxane gathers her courage and tells her father that she is pregnant. He goes absolutely crazy and starts yelling at her to get out of the house. Roxane decides to go see Sawyer to tell him about the child. When she tries to talk to him, he ignores her. When she tries to tell him that he is the father of her child, he denies that he ever wooed with her. He denies that he ever met her. Devastated and alone, Roxane decides to leave Tortosa, and she heads for Chestnut Ridge, where she finds an abandoned campsite and decides to stay for the moment. Roxane decides to keep her child and to love it like her mother loved her. Roxane didn't know though that she was pregnant with twins. One of them unfortunately didn't make it. Roxane was so sad, but at least she got to take the most beautiful baby girl with her home, baby Leora. Roxane struggled to make it by, but no one gave her, a teen, high school dropout single mom, a well-paid job. The only job she could get was as a waiter, but she couldn't bring Leora with her. Roxane remembered that her aunt Angelique lived in Chestnut Ridge. Roxane decided to make the hardest choice she ever had to make. Roxane decided to leave Leora with Angelique and her family. Roxane remembered her mother always speaking so highly of her sister. so Roxane knew that Leora would be taken care of. Roxane struggled on and worked as hard as she could. Roxane spent all of her free time finding collectibles to sell. Roxane started to break into houses to steal items to sell, all so that she can get by. All she wanted was a house for her and Leora to live in. One night out after work, Roxane meets the handsome Caden, and she is absolutely smitten with him. When he, just a few weeks after they just met, asks her to move in, she gladly accepts. And when he soon after asks her to marry him, she doesn't even hesitate at all. Slowly, Roxane notices that Caden is kind of hard to please. Nothing she does is ever good enough. He starts calling her name and ordering her around. She notices that he sometimes acts weird, and she starts to suspect drugs. One day, when she asks him about it, he hits her hard in the face. Long story short, everything escalates and Caden starts hitting Roxane frequently. One night when Roxane gets home from work, Caden is tripping, and he beats her up so bad that she ends up in the hospital with bleeding on her brain. Roxane spends some time in the hospital and Caden never visits. When Roxane finally gets home from the hospital, she comes home to an empty house. She learns from a neighbor that Caden is in Solani with some other girl. Roxane decides that she has had enough. Enough of mean and evil sins. The world would be a better place without them in it. When Caden comes home a few days later, she does the only right thing left to do. She makes the world a better place without him in it. At this point in time, Roxane is done with poor, weak Roxane and decides to continue on as Rocky Simsicle. You now know what happened to Roxane, but the question remains, what will happen to Rocky? Only the future will tell. Stay tuned and you will find out. Thank you for your time. I hope to see you again. Bye for now.